Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. I was a kid with big dreams. And I come from a family that had big dreams for me. And it didn't take me long to realize that my Catholic faith also had big expectations for me. And that weighted on me. I heard the word, "You're a leader," when I was a kid. And that weighted on me. Those became not beautiful tags, but expectations for who I was supposed to be, how I was supposed to act. And that started having an impact on me. And I clearly remember being 8 years old, and I was good at school. And I remember wanting to show my report card to my dad. And I was sitting next to him, and I knew this was a win for me because I was good at that. And he was going through my report card, and he was smiling, so I was happy. And he turned to me and said, "There's a lot of A's, but why not A+?" And that weighted on me. That weighted on me because it meant that I wasn't enough, or at least that's how I interpreted it. I wasn't enough. I wasn't doing enough. So I was going to make sure I did enough. I became someone that was enough. And that weighted on me. And when I was 8 years old, I started having these dreams where I was chased. And I was being chased, and I needed to run for my life. And I don't know where I was coming from, and I don't know where I was going, but I needed to run in order to survive. I needed to keep going, and I needed to keep going in order to be alive. And I just heard my heart pumping, and I was out of breath, and I had my hands cold. And I kept having that dream, and that dream stuck with me. And I became anxious. I started being an anxious kid, overachieving at life, but I started becoming anxious all the time. And that dream stayed with me and waited on me. And that anxiousness started making my heart its home. And I took that. I ran with that. I knew I needed to do things in order to be someone. I knew I needed to be the best in order to survive, to stay alive. So when I was 17, I started university. I overachieved, right? Too close to the sun. And I was doing the most. You can imagine I was in student council, I was called a leader, and I was a cheerleader, and I was in theater, and I had the greatest grades, and I was just excelling at everything. But that was hard. That was very hard, and it weighted on me. And that same year, 17, my older brother invited me to a Life in the Spirit seminar. And you'll know by now that I was raised Catholic, so I knew what was going on and what was going to happen. But why not check another box, the good Christian box? And I decided to go. And this Life in the Spirit seminar is a 2-day retreat. So it started with a talk. And the speaker was holding a mask, a ceramic mask in his hand. And he was just saying nice words, and words I've heard before. And by the end of his talk, he said that in order to receive Jesus' love, we have to take off that mask. And something clicked within me. I felt that that mask for me was all the stuff that I was doing in order to survive. And I was shocked. And by the end of his talk, he took the mask and smashed it on the floor. And I was shocked. And I was shocked. I saw that I was carrying that mask. Towards the end of that retreat, we had a pray-over moment, and they were praying for me. And I felt that mask. And I felt that Jesus was coming, was approaching me, and was knocking that mask. Jesus wanted to enter into my heart. But I wasn't ready. That mask was my identity, was who I was, what I needed to do to stay alive. I couldn't fail. Because failure meant, in my head and in my heart, it meant dying. And a year went by. I kept that mask. And we had another Life in the Spirit seminar. And I was there, volunteering. Yes, you got it right. I needed to check that good Christian box. It was just another box that I needed to check. And you're sure I was going to check it. And we were at the same pray over moment. And I think that year really showed me how heavy that mask was, how impossible it was for me to keep going. I was 18, and I was always 100 miles an hour, every day, all day, trying to prove who I was to my parents, to my friends, to my teachers, to anyone around me. I needed to prove who I was. I needed to earn their trust and their love, and it was too heavy to carry. I had been carrying that mask for 18 years. And in that same pray over moment, they were praying for me. And I heard that knock again. I heard that Jesus wanted to enter. And I was so exhausted that I said, yes, I surrender. Take it off. And I felt that Jesus looked at me and that I could look at him. And something changed. Something changed, and for the first time in many years, I felt that I could stop and that didn't mean that I was going to die. I felt that I could breathe, and I felt my heart rate just slowing. But I would like to tell you the story ends there and that I just breeze through life and I'm here with you. That's not the case. Life happens, and my security, my safe place was that mask. So I slowly but surely started putting that mask on again and started getting involved in any place that I could, checking all the boxes that I could, because that was what I knew. That's the only way I knew how to survive, how to stay alive. So even though Jesus had knocked on my mask and that I had taken off that mask and that I have seen him, I was too afraid. So I went back to that same place. When I was 21, I lost my dad. And my dad was very important in my life, and losing him just destroyed me. It took me to a place that I didn't know and that I couldn't escape. I was just shattered inside, and I didn't know how to handle myself, nor my feelings. So I just stayed there in my misery, in my feelings, in my loneliness, and in my pain, because I didn't know how to handle it. And I did not want to approach anyone with my problems, because I did not want to accept defeat. I did not want to accept that I failed at managing my own emotions. So for 2 years, I stayed in that pain with that wound open. And after 2 years, dear friends, I was exhausted. I couldn't keep having that pain, like struggling with that pain. I just couldn't do it. And in another moment of surrender, I heard Christ knocking at my door, and I took my mask off. Jesus, help me. I'm too tired. And if you need to hear that I failed, I failed. I just surrendered. I was too exhausted, running 100 miles an hour, carrying that pain. I was too exhausted. So I took that mask off again, and I allowed Jesus to look at me, and I looked at him. And my life was completely transformed. I am not the same person. Jesus touched my life. In that deep wound, I felt loved. And for the first time, even though it's something I've heard my whole life, I felt that Jesus loved me. And I remember calling my pastoral leader and telling her, Alicia, I think God loves me. I think God loves me. And I don't have to do anything to earn that love. He loves me. And she said, yes, God loves you. Without any attachments, God loves you. But it was the first time that I truly believed that for myself, that I truly received the gift of God's love. And fast forward to now, I work in the corporate world. I'm successful at that. I'm good at what I do. And I'm sure if that kid looked at my life now, she would like it. But that's not where my heart is. I stopped using people, stopped seeing them as resources, as things that I could use, as pieces of a puzzle. I stopped using myself, stopped abusing myself. And I treat people like the Lord teach me to treat myself. I see people how Jesus sees me, with a loving gaze, a humble heart, an eagerness to listen, a patience to hold. I still have big dreams, but those dreams are not mine. Those dreams are the Lord's dreams. And I dream of one day being able to slow down. I dream of having a family with my husband, of treating my husband with love and with respect. I have big dreams, but my dreams are not the same. And I know that I am loved. I know deeply that God loves me and that God loves you. Thank you.